the use of femininity as a shield to defend privilege, like unbelievable privilege and terrible behavior. I do think one of the points that they're making, but they're coming at it from the wrong side, is like, well, men get away with this, right? And they do, but they shouldn't. Nobody should get away with it.
Exactly.
And we're back. You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast that is supportive like a bra, but also freeing like not wearing a bra. Alyssa, I have a question for you. We were, this lit up the group chat. I feel like this article lit up many, many group chats over the course of the last week. And that's the article, the profile in the New York Times, rebranding Elizabeth Holmes. She is now Liz Holmes, she says. And
Liz.
She's nice now. Do we need to shut down all the Elizabeths until we can figure out what the hell's going on?
I mean, look, there are some not great Elizabeths out there, but I don't think that we can let Elizabeth Holmes, Liz Holmes, represent them all. You know what I mean?
What if we split the difference and we were like, okay, Elizabeth, you can't go by Liz, but we will let you go by Lizzie, like Lizzie Borden?
Maybe. That's a step in a better direction, I think.
I think that's a little bit more honest. You do get to change your identity, but it should be an identity that reminds us of an axe murderer.
Yes, and I do feel like Elizabeth Holmes and Lizzie Holmes are perfect caricatures of one another.
It's like Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus. But that's essentially what the piece was kind of trying to do. It was trying to paint the Elizabeth Holmes that we all dressed up like for Halloween in 2018 as a character that she'd created. And so I really want to get into whether or not she's owed forgiveness, the bizarreness of the profile, and, whether there's any sexism baked into the way Holmes was treated. And rounding out our panel today is somebody who we always love having join us. She is Crooked's VP of Politics and a longtime friend of Hysteria, Shaniqua McClendon. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Hi.
So I want to let you get started. Shaniqua, what did you make of this rebranding of Elizabeth Holmes into Liz Holmes? Do you believe it is legit?
I think it's a legit effort. Sorry, I'm stumbling. It was just, I read the article and I still just have like so many thoughts. But the thing that stuck out the most to me, maybe not the most, but one of the things that initially stuck out to me was the author of the article and how much I just feel like she blindly walked into this rebrand, but not consciously. It's like she really thought that it felt like she thought she was friends with Elizabeth by the end of it. But then she ends the article with, no, I'm a journalist. I can't come back here. I declined the invitation to be friends. But the whole article was, ooh, I'm hanging out with her. She's so normal. We got this food this day. And I don't know. She revealed so much that I felt like it didn't feel like real journalism.
So Shaniqua, you know who the author is, right? Amy Chozick?
So I don't know. I saw people talking crap about her, but I don't actually know that much about her.
So Amy Chozick covered the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2016. She was like the main Times voice covering the Hillary Clinton campaign, which is why another reason that the piece was kind of like surprising to me, because Chozick like knows her shit. Like she knows what she's doing. She wrote The Girls on the Bus. She's like really a smart, savvy journalist and writer, which makes me think that maybe Elizabeth/Liz Holmes is a more powerful manipulator than any of us could have imagined.
I took notes as I read. My last note was, or second to last, was basically that this woman got conned by a con artist. And she just kind of fell for it in the end.
Well, at least she didn't invest any money in a new company.
Yeah. Always smarter than the men.
Alyssa, what did you make of this whole rebrand effort from Elizabeth to Liz? Do you buy it? Is it real?
Erin, this is the hardest of abso-fucking-lutely knots for me. The hardest. Okay, you know what? Bernie Madoff and Bernard Madoff are the same fucking person. So are Liz and Elizabeth. And you know what? When I read this, The one thing that I felt like was spectacularly fucking missing from it is the harm she did. This wasn't some dipshit who had an app that tells you how to go. She wasn't Adam Newman. Adam Newman is like a reprehensible person. But what he didn't take people's healthcare into their fucking hands. In a world, in a country where our healthcare system is so devastatingly broken, and you see people who are hungry, who are desperate for low-cost healthcare options and alternatives. And she presented them with one. And it's like, I don't know, have we forgotten that she lied about people's fucking blood results? That people were told they had cancer when they didn't have cancer, and were probably told they didn't have cancer when they did have cancer. This is so appalling. Like, what she did was not just some fucking Ponzi scheme that the founders do. And, she was not Tom fucking Brady losing money on crypto. This was someone who created something that did irreparable damage to people and to an industry and provided false hope in a world where, like, there isn't much. And so fuck her. And I'm glad she had kids, and I'm glad she's probably going to some upscale prison. But, like, do I think that she found God? Through the whole thing, all she did was make excuses. She blamed being a woman and how she had to adopt the voice and she had to do. You know what? Maybe part of that's true, but it's not what made you lie about whether your blood testing machine worked or not. That is, to me, fuck her, fuck the profile. Like, it is, if in this instance, to me, I think she's actually getting a pass because the world is harder on women, but she also did something which is not fair. It shouldn't be true, but it probably is true, that the amount of money she went and got from old white men who invested in her blindly because probably sometime in history they didn't buy Facebook stock and they're like, I'm still going to get the big one, even though I'm rich. I still want to be richer. And they invested in her. But you know what? Probably a lot fucking harder for women to go out and raise capital after what she did, because everyone's looking for an excuse to not invest in women and people of color, and she gave them an excuse. So fuck her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just one other thing to add on to that. There's a section where it says there's an unspoken lesson for female executives. You're allowed to be successful, but not too successful. One, she wasn't successful. Two,
exactly.
The whole thing was a lie. It wasn't that she created something that just needed a little bit more hope. It actually did not work. And so I don't think you can take what happened to her, which is she got caught lying, and then say now women are just set back because we can't lie the same. I don't know. Yeah. It's just bizarre.
Well, Shaniqua, what's really funny is I had that exact pull quote up. I wish I could show you my screen. I'm looking at it right now, and that was the next thing I was going to say. That was from a letter that one of her sorority sisters wrote to the judge who presided over Holmes's trial. And what it made me think of is, I think that social media takes every legitimate criticism of women, feminism, etc., whiteness, etc., and oftentimes figures out a way to extract the misogyny and then spit it back. Complaining about white women liking things or white feminism is a lot of times just people complaining about women or people complaining about feminism. But this was a case where I was like, whoa, this is white feminism run amok. This is exactly the original version of what it was, which was the use of femininity as a shield to defend privilege, unbelievable privilege and terrible behavior. I do think one of the points that they're making, but they're coming at it from the wrong side, is well, men get away with this, right? And they do, but they shouldn't. Nobody should get away with it.
Exactly. It's kind of
nobody should get away with, but also I feel like what she did was so much more egregious because it was about people's health. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Did Adam Newman run some sort of nut, investor scheme at WeWork? Yeah, sure. Travis, all these other founders, are they terrible? Sure, they're terrible. But she was dealing with blood. She was taking people's blood.
Yeah.
She had people's blood.
Their products work. It wasn't it's not like Uber created cars, self-driving cars that were crashing into walls and killing everyone. You know, she
that's
knew
just
what she
Elon
was
Musk.
doing. Yeah, exactly. She knew what she was doing. And it just, like you said, like there's a lot of things that women go through, but all I could think about in this moment, and I think it's because the news that came out yesterday that Senator Feinstein is headed back to DC. It's all I could think about, that there's been all of these claims of sexism because people want her to resign and people want a fully functioning senator to represent, you know, a state that
20
has
million
so
people.
so many people in it.
And I mean, there's 40 million people in California. She is an inapt representation of half of us.
And because she's
offensive.
a woman, we just have to take it. Be happy you have a woman senator. Like, it literally makes no sense. And to me, you know, if there's any like real victim here, it's all the people who are legitimately using feminism to make claims and causes for women, to just have it reduced down to feminism means women can do whatever they want, good or bad. Which, where does that leave us? Because the people who end up getting away with it are white women. It's not marginalized women who are able. A Black woman would not get away with this, you know. Just, I'm thinking about the smaller things that Black women have gone to prison and jail for. A story from years ago about a woman who sent her kids to school in a different zip code using, I think, her parents' address or something, and she went to jail. Or voting unknowingly. And where's their redemption story? Where's the truth behind where and how they got to where they are? But here we are with this New York Times profile of this normal woman who made some mistakes, and mistakes aren't illegal.
And like the life that she's living right now is like good. As I was reading the article, I was like, where is she getting money? They're like talking about how she, you know, they're moving around all the time. They're in but then they're in a rental by the Pacific Coast. So, okay, well, that, you know, you can't like pay for that in hugs and smiles. Like, how are you paying for that? And about 3/4 of the way through the article, it mentioned that her husband is like a hotel heir or something. And it's like, oh, she's... Look, I don't want to speculate about their marriage, but I feel like she's conned literally everybody in her life as an adult. And so, like, that just seems like a savvy move by a woman who, like...
She's, you know? A 25-year-old.
Good on her.
Yeah.
He's 25. Look, I don't want to, I do think that like the preponderance of evidence, which we were discussing in news, the preponderance of evidence is I think that it is more likely than not likely that somebody who has a long history of conning and scamming and doing whatever it takes to make the most possible money with absolutely no regard for who she hurts might have done that again at some point. I feel like, Alyssa, to tag on to what you were saying about the healthcare thing, and how much it's set back both like women and people of color who are trying to get money. You know, Adam Newman, speaking of somebody who, you know, is like a bit of a fuck around, just raised like $300 million from like a VC. I mean, when I say just, I mean within the last year somebody gave him another $300 million. The man has a track record of fucking up, and people were like, he's probably got it handled. People who are in any way marginalized, white women to an extent, but more so anybody who is not a white person, women of color, have a really difficult time getting VC money to start companies in the first place. And I feel like, you know, with interest rates as high as they are and how expensive it is to borrow money for anybody trying to start a business, that's only gonna get worse. And Liz Holmes did so much damage also to... Okay, so I'm like a person who's always been terrified of getting my blood drawn, like terrified. And you know that like now that endeavor, like maybe we can figure this out by taking less blood, is like poisonous. Nobody gets to try that idea anymore. She ruined it. Shaniqua, do you think it's possible for someone like Elizabeth Holmes to get a second chance? Like, what penance would she have to pay in order for you to believe that she genuinely is trying to be a good person?
Yeah. I mean, to not have profiles, to like not get all this attention. I mean, I think she just needs to go to jail, come out, and just live her life not in the spotlight. The article ends with her saying she still has all these ideas that she wants to work on in the healthcare space. And it's like, can you not kill people? Like,
No,
what is
ma'am.
next?
No, ma'am.
So I honestly think she just needs to let it go. Yeah. And again, like thinking about all the male entrepreneurs who have done shady stuff that's probably illegal and haven't hurt anyone. It's, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm not someone who's like big on jail. So, and I don't, honestly, reading the profile, I don't think that's going to affect her. I think she's probably going to con some people in jail. And by the time she gets out, like, she's going to have a little cult following in there.
100%.
Go away. She needs to go away. That's what she needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
Did we take away from that article that she's actually not going to prison right now?
Oh, yeah.
Like she was supposed to go. There was this whole wind up that she was going to have to report on April 27th, but she got, and they're appealing, and she's asked to be free during her appeal, and that seems to be the case. So again, a privilege that would not be afforded to everyone.
And they waited last minute to do the appeal, I think, so that it would be right up against when she was supposed to go in. And one other thing I just wanted to respond to that you said, Erin, about, you know, women and people of color not having as much access to VC money. They don't even have access to like a good life. Like, you know, they don't even have access to the assumption that they are innocent when something happens. And so the thought that they would even get anywhere near what she's been able to do is just pretty impossible to even think it would happen.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Sorry, this part also really stuck in my craw, as my mother would say. When they go on about how when the reporter goes on about how poor Liz was socially stunted because when other kids were 20 and out going to parties, that she was there doing very serious work. What? What? Being socially stunted is now an excuse for a multi-million-dollar scam?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it felt like there were so many parts in the profile where we were supposed to have some sympathy or worse, empathy for her. And like the did you notice that like in the picture, it looks like she's breastfeeding, but she's not? Like, why?
So weird.
Oh,
It's the
they're
weirdest thing.
hiding the kids' faces from the camera. The kids' face, they're not having their kids' faces be public. So both
Right.
of the kids'
She could have done it a different way.
I was like, oh, but yeah, no, it's I think that's like legit. not having your children.
All right.
in public.
I mean, I agree with the kid's face not being on camera,
But
but
you could hold them like this.
she
or
definitely
something.
had to have them in the photo. She definitely had to have them in the photo so people would know she was a mother
Yeah. Faceless
and
sisters.
therefore had been redeemed.
I think that might be also some like clever art directing and photo directing for the editors at the New York Times, because it did seem like really what Elizabeth wants is to be viewed as this sort of like, maternal, loving, soft figure. And so having her hold her baby in that position that moms often hold, sometimes, like, I don't know, when Juniper was little, sometimes I would just hold her down there because it would calm her down to just be close to a boob. She'd be like, great, this is my pal. But like that pose is a choice, and I think that it contributes to some of what was so provocative about the New York Times profile. I did find something really telling. There was a moment in the article. Of course, Ms. Holmes also tried to control the story, often with scorched earth tactics. She is typically docile, but got visibly upset when I asked about how the lawyer David Boies had threatened litigation against people who spoke negatively about Theranos. Alex Schultz, the father of the Theranos employee turned whistleblower Tyler Schultz and the son of George Schultz, told the court that Tyler, quote, slept with a knife under his pillow every night, thinking that someone was going to come and murder him in the night. Okay. So look, I'm not a therapist. All I know about narcissism is what I've read on Wikipedia and seen on TikTok, and a lot of that information is dubious at best. But one thing that a lot of people with disordered responses, emotional responses do is when you get close to the truth, they react with anger. They try to scare you away from the truth. And the fact that she got visibly upset when she was confronted with something that she had participated in an attempt probably to like convince the reporter to stay away from that. That's fucking manipulative. That's manipulative. You want to talk to a reporter, answer their questions. Like, you know, you're coming to a reporter and you want them to write about you. You have to answer their questions. That to me was very telling. And that to me made me think that like I said, I have a lot of faith in Chozik as a reporter and writer. I think she's savvier than some interpretations of this article like have led people to believe. And her inclusion of that to me felt like she was trying to signal to the readers that she's still kind of like unhinged.
I think that's fair. I mean, I didn't come away from the article thinking that she was completely, like, it wasn't a full-on puff piece, but it was very much in favor of Elizabeth Holmes, kind of us seeing, it provided a lot more middle ground than I think is necessary for someone who did something as bad as what she did. Like, we don't need to consider that she's somewhere in the middle of, you know, this innocent teenager who's 35 but hasn't grown, you know, mentally enough to actually be a 35-year-old. And that, you know, that's one end of the spectrum. And the other end of the spectrum is she's a psycho and she's like somewhere in the middle. I think she is closer to someone who is really smart, manipulative, and knew how to get over on people. And quite frankly, used sexism in her favor. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of the men who gave her that money. One could argue that if those men were sexist, they wouldn't have given her the money at all. But maybe they were sexist in the way that they thought she couldn't con them out of their money. You know, why did they write those huge checks? And then, yeah, just, you know, not believing a woman could pull one over on them, that they saw what she presented. They were smart. And so it made sense. And so it must have been right. And so we touched on this already, but I just hate when, well, I don't always hate it, but in this instance, I hate when patriarchy is just used to shield women from the accountability that all of us should have.
Absolutely. But you know what? Who uses that in a way that I think is like genius? You know, the reporter Lauren Windsor? She's a reporter.
Oh, yeah.
She's the one who gets like conservatives to say absolutely fucking wild shit into a recorder. She's great. We should actually have her on the show. But what she does is she just is like a pretty blonde woman, and she'll wear like a red MAGA cap, and she'll like ask them questions that lead them to believe that she's like on their side. Like, what do you think about, you know, she'll use their like key phrases. Like she'll call, you know, migrants illegals. You know, she will talk about, you know, she'll say abortionists, you know, she'll say words that they interpret as like, oh, this person couldn't possibly be lying to me because she's a pretty blonde white lady in a MAGA hat. And she just like over and over again is able to get them to say insane things. I think that is using patriarchy and those low expectations for good. Holmes probably used them for evil. This is all kind of bringing me to the George Santos of it all too. And Shaniqua, I'm curious what you make of the fact that he's now, as of Wednesday morning, he's in custody, facing federal charges. Do you think that George Santos will get more chances than we are willing to give Elizabeth Holmes?
That is interesting. Honestly, I don't think so. I think everyone is over him, and he's been just kind of like evading accountability, and it's finally like knocked on his door. And the unfortunate part is I don't think he's going to not be given more chances because he doesn't deserve them. I think Republicans are going to be happy that he is finally off of their hands, and it's politically advantageous to just kind of, you know, shuffle him out. But, you know, whatever it takes.
Yeah, he was also doing like scams that were involving dogs and animals and stuff.
That was, I mean, what depths of depravity does one need to have fake? That motherfucker raised money for a veteran's, I think I have this right, a veteran's dog that was dying of cancer and then didn't give him the money. And the dog died of cancer. Like, what?
That's pretty bad.
Fuck.
I mean, like, I feel as though the scale of Elizabeth Holmes' deception was like much more massive and severe and serious, but the actual bite of the individual story involving a dying dog.
Agreed.
Traumatized veteran, it's like, oh my God, all he's got to do is kick a baby and it's tic-tac-toe of nobody's ever gonna forgive you, man.
And he had the nerve to run for Congress. I think that is the part that people are just like, No one was paying attention to you. Did all of this crazy stuff. And then you got elected to Congress in a competitive district. So, I mean, okay, that's not what's at the top of the list, but, you know, we're hanging on by.
Still.
No, I think that it's really important that, like, over the next couple years, we as progressives and of people who care about, like, decency really come out against the audacity. We need to come out against the audacity. Like, the audacity of Liz Holmes, like, what
the audacity of dopes. I had to. It was such low-hanging fruit.
Oh my God. I mean, that's really the culprit, isn't it? It's the audacity. And sometimes that's all it takes.
Well, I need to get some. I need to get some more.
I know.
Yeah. Let's get some signs. Let's get some WGA picketing style signs that say audacity with like an X.